Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today we have a video courtesy of the Purple Smurf driving the Tier 10 American destroyer, the Gearing. And it's Tears of the Desert Epicenter, one of my least favorite modes on one of my least favorite maps, I should say. I don't actually dislike Epicenter, I just really dislike it on certain maps, and this is one, and it's because of how stale the gameplay becomes. I know I've talked about it before. Domination mode on this map isn't too bad, but standard battle and Epicenter, with no real cover kind of on the flanks, teams never really try pushing. So it ends up into the stalemate until one team has enough of an advantage that the other has to do something drastic. And you can see right off the bat, the Purple Smurf is just going to the center. And this is kind of what you expect. The destroyers typically rush the middle, try to challenge, and even on domination or standard battle, DDs work between these islands, and the big ships tend to go to the flanks. Now, this can work, but, part of the strength of being a DD is finding the other destroyers. But if you can keep teammates in gun range while doing so, you now have an advantage over that destroyer. Whereas in a situation like this, where, there aren't a ton of friendly guns, there's a cruiser or two who might have a shot, it really just comes down to a 1v1 showdown. And I try as hard as I can, at least when I'm playing, to avoid that. Because those are the situations that, yeah, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. But they tend to take you out of the game pretty early because you're going to lose a lot of hit points. So I definitely always like to stack the odds as much as I can in my favor, and a big part of the way I do that is just making sure I've got friendlies around to help me, to share in the damage, and to wipe the ships out quicker. It's all that focus. I talk about it so much, and because to me it is really important. But obviously the center stops getting capped, so there's a destroyer in here with Purple Smurf, and he doesn't seem too intent on staying. He sees that Montana starting to turn, leads the torpedoes ahead of the indicator, anticipating that Montana's going to continue the turn, and I think gets a little lucky, because you can see where that Minotaur just stopped and smoked up. At least I believe it was a Minotaur. Yeah, it looks like it was. He's pretty much on the torpedo path. So not only does he have a really good chance of hitting this Montana by placing some, well-led torps, that Minotaur has basically put himself smack dab in the middle too. Now, that could work out, but it could also hurt because the Minotaur's got hydroacoustic, might see it coming, give the Montana enough time to dodge, but it doesn't look like it. And 2 hits, we don't know who it's on. There's a third. I think that third one is on the Montana, and I think the first 2 were the Minotaur. But we won't know till the end of the game when I look at the post-battle. Though, looking at how much health the Montana's lost, I think it's safe to say he only ate 1. And, you pop smoke in a destroyer, torpedoes are coming your way. Purple Smurf had momentum. Bit of luck there that there wasn't another set further back near the first puff, but either way, dodges them and just goes back to work hitting this Montana. Now, the one unfortunate thing, and something you have to pay attention to when you do get torpedo strikes, is did you get flooding with it? Now, from what I saw from the 3 hits, I think there were 2 floods, but they were both on the Minotaur, and then no flooding on the Montana. Which kind of means he might have damage control to put any fires out. He may not though, because he definitely certainly seems to be quite lit up. But okay, there's the damage control. More torpedoes off at that smoke. Close call on that torp, and you can see the Minotaur now was definitely the one who ate 2 of the torpedoes. So kind of a 2-for-1 with that launch, and you gotta love when that happens as a destroyer. And when you do fire at big groups of ships like they were there, you're gonna get a lot of kind of secondary hits. Hits on targets you maybe didn't intend to strike, but because they're all so grouped up, you just get them. Case in point, 2 torpedoes into the Izumo there, and it looks like the Hipper might eat one as well. And that was just once again right at the smoke. 2 end up hitting the Hipper, picks up his first kill, and you know, that's why it's a little dangerous to cluster up too much. It's one thing if you're all kind of bow in to where threats might be, but the enemy team should have known there was a destroyer over here. There was also ships over here, so sitting side on like that was just not a wise decision. And well, now Reckless Snake is getting battered by those Izumo secondaries, which are very respectable in their own right. But you can see he's got a lot of help right now. And that's kind of what I was talking about. There's a Minotaur, Chapaya, Vrun, and a Zhao, who all seem to have shots on that Izumo, and that really helps Smurf out here. You know, the Izumo may be focusing on him, but he's not going to be around that long if he keeps taking the damage he is. So when I talk about, you know, always trying to stay close to your fleet, it's not necessarily proximity, because, you know, he's 8-9k ahead, but they've got gun arcs onto things he's going to spot. And that's a very important thing in a destroyer, and I think Smurf is doing a great job of kind of ensuring that. And I can only assume that experience has kind of taught him that that's how you have to play. And you see so many destroyers kind of go, oh, I'm going to go, you know, going to go spot for the friendlies. And they charge up so far ahead that everything that they spot can't help, or like, you know, teammates can't hit, and they end up all alone, you know, against opposing numbers, and then wind up complaining when their team can't help them. So there's something to be said for kind of knowing what your own team's doing, and a little unfortunate as Smurf pops the smoke, but clearly detected by a radar there for a few seconds, as you saw the indicator and, well, it ran out. The one thing you're definitely worried about with the German DDs, though, is they do have that hydroacoustic surge. And a bit of an interesting torpedo set there. You know, a lot of people would be inclined to just lead, oh, there's the gray, click, click. But Smurf is kind of anticipating that maybe that Z46 is going to continue to weave. You know, it's what you expect out of a destroyer. So he ends up putting one set kind of ahead and one behind that indicator. And, you know, the Z46 turns away, disappears, but there's a chance one of those PEDs might have hit him. They're not needed as the guns finish him off. And, you know, once again, Smurf just being really cognizant of the fact that that Z46 probably got torpedoes in the water at his smoke, got well clear of it, and now can back up into the safety of that concealment. And this has been quite a frantic game, I would say. As far as damage has gone, 8.5 minutes in, 120,000 damage. Only 2 kills to speak for, but some big torpedoes onto some very deadly high-tier targets at the start of the game. The Minotaur, Montana, Izumo, and the Hipper. All 8 PEDs to start that one off. So they're about to take the middle cap, cruiser in there helping, and well, you can pretty much figure out where the enemy team is. Now they're spotted, but based on where they were last detected, and the fact that this outer middle ring isn't being capped probably tells you someone was in these islands, because people tend to be in cover, you know. They're probably not sitting out anywhere here in the open. So just little hints like that can give you a lot of extra detail when you're looking for them. And I think Smurf is trying to line up to take some pot shots at this Montana. I mean, I wouldn't be eager to drive around a corner point blank at a Zhao. And, you know, between the Zhao and Chapayev, they should be able to take out that enemy. And wow, did they get a big hit there. So, you know, I've kind of mentioned things before, but this is a point where the game can become a little dangerous. You know, teams get a little cocky, think, oh, we've got this, rush into it, and the game I shared from HMang the other day is a perfect example of how things can go downhill quickly if you're not thinking about what you're doing. They've got caps, they have the point advantage. Smurf's team doesn't need to push. And the big risk is that you get a couple people on your team who are, you know, maybe a little antsy to get some extra damage or think it's all over, time to go clean up. They go charging out, get killed, and it starts to even the battle. And then all of a sudden you shift and you're behind. And, you know, that's exactly what happened in that game with HMang. And so far, it looks like Smurf's team's doing actually a pretty good job of playing passively. The enemy has to come at them. Like, plain and simple. You know, it might not be interesting, but all Smurf's team has to do right now is wait 9 minutes and they win. They've got a 300-point lead, and they've got the caps. Well, at least the center one. So Smurf being out in front, that's fine. He's got a cruiser right on his starboard quarter there, and is trying to hunt out the last of the destroyers, because once this DD is dead, the enemy team's kind of up creek without a paddle. They don't have a way to push out and spot. They have no way to conceal their ships. Because one of the ways you can kind of come back from a situation like this is a destroyer can lay a nice long smoke road, conceal your battleships, get in front, let the battleships get 2 or 3 big hits into enemy cruisers where they don't have any risk of getting shot back. But you look at that enemy destroyer, it came right into the center cap. I can understand why, challenge it, but ended up caught out, and that Qckslvrslash eats a torpedo in the smoke, and now things really are starting to wrap down. Smurf has his smoke, enemy team has no way to detect him, so he's just going to go invisible in here and put the guns to work to end this game. You can see he's got a fire or flood on that Qckslvrslash. I see the fire burning. I'm not 100% sure that was his, but damage is continuing to stack up. That Minotaur is just raining shells, and, well, the Minotaur is hiding in his own smoke. So they are relying on spotting from ships over here, kind of here. So you run the risk of them disappearing, but I don't know that that Qckslvrslash is gonna make it out of this one before he can disappear, and he keeps firing. So, you really have to look at your detection ranges and be aware of it. Depending on that Qckslvrslash's build, he was getting very close to disappearing there. I believe, if I'm correct, it's 12.3 if you've got a concealment build. So that final volley he sent might have been a risk of him actually surviving, but as you can see, he didn't, so it doesn't matter. They've got all 3 caps now, just 2 battleships to beat up on, and in a situation like this, the battleships don't really have much they can do for themselves. There are situations where BB is great to have at the end of the game, but with a destroyer, this many cruisers and battleships on Smurf's team, there really isn't any coming back. At this point, the best the enemy team there can do is just try to get as much damage out, try to get a kill or 2, and, at least maybe preserve some of your credits when the post-battle comes. And just watching that North Carolina, you have to feel bad for him. Dodges the torpedoes, but it's kind of just a temporary band-aid on a bigger problem, because all these shells find his way, make quick work. Smurf picks up the Kraken, and that leaves just a Montana who eats a peed and gets killed. And end of the day, Purple Smurf can't ask for much more on a map like Tears of the Desert. 457,000 credits, 2,600 experience, Confederate, Kraken, Double Strike, 169,000 credits, 203 shells, 10 torpedoes, all adding up to get those 6 kills. And you gotta love a result like that, especially when you're in a high tier destroyer. It's just great to start wrecking things. And when you do wreck things like that, you wind up on the top of your team, very respectable base XP. And you can see when you look at the kills, there's only 4 people on Smurf's team that got kills because he was gobbling them up. And, you know, sometimes you get a kill or two that are lucky and you don't really get the damage. But when you look across the board, there's 1 or 2 kills where Smurf doesn't do a lot of damage, like that North Carolina and the Shima. But he really added some up on that Montana and a couple of the other ships. And it just all added up to hit that 169,000 damage mark. And despite not having a premium account, still walked away with 250,000 credits, which is very impressive. With premium would have almost hit the 500,000 mark. So well done, Purple Smurf. Thank you very much for the game. Anyone else who's interested in submitting one, Qckslvrslash@gmail.com. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. Both help me out. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.